Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. It may only be mid-April, but I'm already starting to think about my May reading plan, and I'm going to need your help. So from May, I'm going to get control of my reading back from my SPF P08 Overlord, or Overlord, Overlady, I don't know, from Cassidy anyway, because I will have read by then my final SPF P08 finalist. So I can now get back to the 30-something books that I put on my reading plan for 2023 that I've had to kind of put on hold a little bit because I've been reading the 10 finalists. So I want you to help me choose which of these books I should go for first. I'm going to give you a few categories. So I've got 4 in total, each with 4 books, and I'd like you to choose one book from each of those categories. Now, I actually did this video last year, and completely by coincidence, I was looking back through my video kind of history on my channel, and it just so happens that it was the May TBR last year as well. So this is literally 1 year later that I'm here again asking the same question, but with a different collection of books. So I'm going to go through very briefly the categories and the individual titles. I'm not going to read synopses for them or anything along those lines. I'm just going to give a very brief kind of high level overview. Some of these are taken from the synopses, some of them are taken from kind of my feeling of the book. It doesn't really matter. Most of the books you should recognise to at least some degree, so there's not too much that I need to say about them. And what I'd like you to do for these is to comment down below. You can choose 1, 2, 3 or all 4 of the categories. Just give me one book that you'd like me to read from each of them. You can do a separate comment for all of them. You can put all the books in one comment. It doesn't matter. I'll go through all of them and I'll just tally up how many times each book has been mentioned, but please only choose one book from each category. There is going to be a 5th category as well, because one of the perks that my patrons get from the 2nd tier upwards is to help me choose my TBR, so to select a book for me to read each month. So I'm going to give them a separate category of 4 books to pick from as well. And then at the end of the month, as usual, I'll do my TBR video and I'll go through all of the selected winners from each of these categories. So with the, I guess, ground rules out of the way, let's go and have a look at the categories and the books that I'd like you to pick for me. So I'm going to start off with my physical TBR, and from this list of 4, I have started to read 2 of them. I've read the first chapter of them for one of my first chapter reads videos, but we start off with the Black Hawk's Articles of Faith, Book 1 by David Ragg, which is a dark, thrilling and hilarious story of a mercenary band without equal. We've then got The Grey Bastards, Book 1 of The Lotlands by Jonathan French. This one kind of gives me the impression of being about a group which is like Sons of Anarchy, but instead of motorbikes, it's warhogs and they're half-orcs. We then got Blood of an Exile, which is Book 1 of Dragons of Terror by Brian Nasland. This one features a legendary but drunken dragon slayer who's looking for redemption, and he has to go out and kill a foreign emperor. And then finally we've got Kingdom of Liars, Book 1 of The Legacy of the Mercenary Kings by Nick Martell. This one is a story of secrets, rebellion and murder, and it's set in a world that's got quite an interesting sounding magic system where the magic itself costs memories. So the category that I'm not really going to describe the books much is the series continuation, because I've read the first book in each of these, and one of them I've read the second book as well. So we're going to start off with Pale Kings by Ben Galley, which is Book 2 of Emaneska. I really enjoyed the audiobook for the written Book 1 in this series, and I'll be looking to continue this on audio as well. The second option here is Book 2 in Pillars of Peace by Tom Dumbrell. This is No Place for Peace. I don't know what the story of this one is. I don't know what the story of any of these sequels are going to be. But again, I did enjoy The Look of a King, which is Book 1 in this series. It's not my normal type of fantasy, because it's very kind of low fantasy in terms of the lack of magic and fantastical elements, but it was still a very intriguing story. The third of these options is The Splinter King, which is Book 2 of the God King Chronicles by Mike Brooks. I think there might be a bit of a shift from the story I had in Book 1, but I really did enjoy that. That was The Black Coast. And then the fourth one is We Cry for Blood, which is Book 3 of The Reborn Empire by Devin Madsen. And this one, actually like the Mike Brooks title before it, does disappoint me slightly, because I listened to the previous book in both of these series on audio. Really enjoyed the narration, but from my understanding, neither of these titles is available on audiobook, so I'll be reading them physically instead. So then the third of my categories is self-published books, because you know that I've got to include a self-pub category. I've got 10 titles specifically in a self-pub list that I want to read this year, and then various other titles that are in my reading plan also just happen to be self-published. I've already mentioned, of course, a couple of those. But for this category, the first book is Queens of the Weird by Tamandra Whitecastle. This is book 1 of the Shield Mothers saga, and it sounds to me like a story that's taken all of what I found to be the best parts of Kings of the Wild, but left all of the bits that I didn't like so much behind. So I'm hoping that's going to be the case, because I could really get behind that story. Then we've got The Worthy by Anna K. Moss, and this one features 2 warring royal siblings against a backdrop of a plague of all of the worst types of emotions. We've then got Marauder by L.L. McRae, which is book 1 of The World of Lunaria, and this one features dragons and airships and sky pirates, and I'm really interested because I'm loving the author's work in her Dragon Spirits series. And then book 4 is Awakening, which is book 1 of Obsidian by Sienna Frost. You often see this one just titled Obsidian Awakening. This one, from what I gather, has 7 different point of view characters, and it's set in a Middle Eastern inspired harsh desert environment. The next category is sci-fi titles, so I've got 4 sci-fi books that I'm looking forward to. The first of those is Shards of Earth by Adrian Tchaikovsky, book 1 of The Final Architecture. With this one, the architects destroyed Earth and then they disappeared, but they may be back again. We've then got Iron Truth by S.A. Folin. This is book 1 of The Prima Terre. I have read the first chapter of this and did really enjoy it, or at least part of it, because it was quite a long first chapter. This one features passengers who wake up from cryo-sleep on a colony ship to find that the world they were expecting to be in isn't the world they're actually in. I've then got Those Left Behind, book 1 of the Way Stations trilogy by N.C. Scrimger, and this one features a crew facing impossible odds on a desperate mission. And then finally we've got Sea of Rust by C. Robert Gargill. This one was recommended in a recent video I did, which I'll link in the cards up above, but it was linked to me by my friend Jonathan from the channel Words in Time. This one features a scavenger robot trying to keep himself running and trying to essentially survive in what sounds like a Wall-E type wasteland Earth setting. So there we go, short and sweet, but I want you to pick 1 book from each category, or a maximum of 1 book from each category. You don't have to choose a book from every category if you don't want to, but I'll be looking at reading the winning book from each category in May as part of my TBR. So to run through the titles again quickly, for my physical TBR, you've got The Black Hawks, The Grey Bastards, Blood of an Exile, and Kingdom of Liars, which I've just realised isn't actually on my physical TBR. I don't own a copy of Kingdom of Liars yet. I should probably sort that out to make this actually fit the scheme, shouldn't I? But moving on, series continuation, we've got Pale Kings, No Place for Peace, The Splinter King, and We Cry for Blood. For the self-published list, we've got Queens of the Weird, The Worthy, Marauder, and Obsidian Awakening. And then for my sci-fi list, I've got Shards of Earth, Iron Truth, Those Left Behind, and Sea of Rust. So thanks very much for helping me choose my May books. I'm looking forward to see what comes out on top in each of those categories, and in that 5th category that my patrons are going to help me with, which you'll see the results of in my actual May TBR video coming up in a couple of weeks. I'll check back on the comments down below in about 10 days or so I can start putting together that particular video, but thank you very much in advance for all the comments on that. I'll hopefully see you in another video sometime soon, but until then, as always, take care of yourselves, read some good books. Bye for now.